Hello, Jessica Frost Ballas here with a video for lawnfawn. Today I'm creating an interactive light-up Christmas card, so let's get started. First I die cut the cute String of Lights backdrop die from metallic silver cardstock. Next I take an A2 top folding card base and place the String of Lights die over it. I use a pencil to lightly trace around 5 of the light bulbs randomly running from left to right. After lifting the die cut panel, I darken the marks a little bit to make them easier to see. These are the specific bulbs I'm going to be lighting up. For my own reference, I've also labeled them with the color LEDs I intend to use. First, I take a stencil and trace the LED shape around the center of each light bulb. Then I trace a circle for my battery. I note the positive long side of the triangle and the negative point of the triangle for each of my LEDs as a reference. Next I take a strip of white cardstock cut to 1 inch by 4 inches. I actually start with a 4 1/4 inch strip, but you'll see me eventually cut that down to 4 inches in a minute. I score it in the middle lengthwise, then fold and crease it. This will become our interactive switch for lighting up the LEDs. I add adhesive below the score line on one side of the strip and adhere that strip to the bottom of the card base so that the loose flap is on top and there's a little room at the bottom of the card base, about 1/4 inch. Next, I start drawing my circuit. I draw vertical lines from the top of each triangle shape and intersect them at the top with a horizontal line. Then I draw a vertical line connecting to the top of the battery circle outline. Then I open up my bottom flap and draw a line running from the battery circle to the bottom part of the strip. I continue that horizontal line across the entire strip. Then I close the flap and draw vertical lines running from the bottom point of each triangle down and onto the flap. My last line is angled to avoid the battery. Then I open the flap and continue my vertical lines along the top of the flap towards the score line. My circuit is now drawn and it's time to start putting it together. I adhere conductive fabric tape along the lines I drew. I start by running a piece of tape over the battery outline and down and inside the folded strip. I add a second piece of tape inside the strip to make it a little wider. Then I take a scrap of conductive fabric tape and fold it into a small loop. I adhere that loop to the bottom negative side of a CR2032 battery and then place that battery over the outline we drew. The loop helps it adhere to the cardstock and make sure that we have a good connection. Next, I adhere strips of conductive tape running from the long top of each triangle. My first strip is really long and it runs vertically from my first triangle, then horizontally across the top of the card, and then vertically down and over the positive side of the battery. I adhere small vertical strips of tape connecting the top of each triangle to the top horizontal line of tape. I make sure that I have a good overlap where the tape meets. These lines of tape will connect the top positive side of each LED to the positive side of the battery. Then I add vertical strips of tape running from the bottom point of each triangle down towards the flap, and then run the tape up and over the flap. I sometimes rotate the card base to make it easier for me to lay down the tape, but just keep in mind that when oriented correctly, the battery is on the right side of the panel and the folded strip is on the bottom. You'll also see that occasionally my strip is a little short. If that happens, simply cut another strip and overlap it over the first. The tape is conductive on both sides, so you can cut and overlap wherever necessary. When you're adding the vertical lines running over the flap, make sure they stop slightly before you hit the score line of the flap. You don't want those lines to touch the horizontal line we added first. Finally, for my last triangle, I need to angle the tape around the battery. I just bend and fold the tape, making sure it doesn't cross any of the other lines. And now it's time to add my LED stickers. I place them in rainbow order over the shapes I traced, making sure that the positive side of the sticker is on top and the negative point of the sticker is on the bottom. As you can see, nothing happens at first because the bottom negative side of the circuit is incomplete. But when I press down on the flap so that the vertical line of tape touches the wide horizontal line, the circuit completes and you see the red LED light up. If I'm not pressing down on the flap, the LED doesn't turn on. As I add the rest of the LED stickers, you'll see me test each LED. The fun interactive part of this card is that you can turn on any number of the LEDs in any order or direction, almost like playing a piano. You can also slide your finger back and forth to light them up in a sequence. To reinforce my LED stickers, I add small strips of conductive fabric tape over the positive and negative sides of each sticker, making sure to not cross any of the vertical lines. As you can see, these are very small strips, and they just help to ensure that your stickers don't shift or move. Once again, I test the LEDs to make sure the connections all work, and also just because I like playing with the lights. Then I place the string of lights backdrop piece over the circuit just to make sure everything is lined up correctly. You can see how the LEDs will eventually glow around those light bulbs. And that's it for the tricky part of this card. Now we just have some Copic coloring and lots of gluing to go. I used the string of lights extra bulbs add-on die set to die cut a bunch of the solid bulbs and the bulbs with a little highlight cut. I leave the solid bulbs white and color the highlight bulbs with a rainbow of Copic markers. I use 2 markers for each color family to keep things simple, and my darkest color just goes along the side of the bulb opposite from the highlight. I'm using a little temporary tape to hold the bulbs in place to make it easier to color. Once I finish coloring all of my bulbs, I use liquid glue to adhere the solid white light bulb over the 5 bulbs that will be lit up on the panel. Then I add my colored bulbs. I do those 5 first just to make sure that I don't accidentally cover one of them with the wrong color. Next, I adhere all the remaining solid white bulbs. I arrange the colors over the white just to make sure I'm happy with the layout and then adhere each one. Once the bulbs are all adhered, I add adhesive to the back of the bulb panel and adhere it to an A2 panel of white cardstock. As you can see, the LEDs are still bright enough to shine through the white cardstock easily. For my sentiment, I die cut the Scripty Mary from black glitter cardstock and the new Scripty Mary outline from vellum. I also stamp a sentiment from Merry Messages onto black cardstock and heat emboss it with white embossing powder before trimming it down to thin labels. I adhere the sentiment over the String of Lights panel, making sure not to cover up any of the LEDs that are going to light up. Then I add strips of foam tape around the edge of my circuit panel and in the middle as well. The foam tape is not conductive, so it doesn't matter if it crosses over the tape, you just want to make sure to not cover up any of the LEDs. I also add a strip of foam tape along the bottom of the panel, but make sure that it doesn't impede the movement of the flap. I remove the adhesive backing and adhere the String of Lights panel over my circuit card base. And here's a better look with my desk lights off. This is such a fun card to play with as you turn those Christmas lights on and off. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I'd love for you to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. Be sure to subscribe to the lawnfawn channel for even more crafty inspiration. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, have a fantastic day and happy crafting. Bye!